Alright, so I just finished priming all the parts, as you can see here. Before we move on to the painting of this kit, during the priming, of course, I noticed a few things that some parts show, and of course that's the parts that I did not sand down properly. Like over here, this little dot here, I don't know if you could see that. There's a hole there, so I had to re-sand it down. I'm going to sand it down again. Also here in this area there was a notch, so I had to re-sand that down there and there. Sometimes you can't see that, you know, visually. It always comes up at that moment where you're about to, you know, prime a part. I think I have another one that shows it. Give me a second here. In the legs. Which annoys the hell out of me when you realize, oh shit, am I gonna do that again? It's very faint. I have one that's very faint, but I guess the primer is covering it. Maybe I should re-prime it a bit. Maybe cover up the holes. But we'll worry about it in a minute after I'm done with this. So right now I'm just going to begin with the metallic gray parts, which is basically the inner frame parts and all that stuff. Let's begin with this one, which is basically that extra part that will allow me to put on an extra armor, or extra hand, arm, forearm. Now this is an acrylic base paint, which I remember using a lot before I started using a lacquer base. It goes on nice and smooth. I really like how the acrylic is. It goes easy. For those of you who are first-time painters, I would recommend using acrylic base paint first, so that way you get, you know, a little bit of experience. Make sure you thin it properly, a good 50-50, and if it looks like it still clogs up, add a couple of drops more and test it out on a, you know, on a test piece. Of course, make sure that you have a tamiya color acrylic paint thinner, or if you don't have that, you know, any thinner, acrylic based thinner from I don't know, Walmart or Home Depot should suffice. I try to take my stab at painting acrylic based paint, but I guess I don't have the steady hands. Yet I've seen people have done amazing works with brushing, you know, brushing their parts on. So well, that's their skill. All right, let's try these umbilicals. The umbilicals was a tough part to sand down because they're basically more rubber than plastic. So getting those little seam lines off the side was not as easy as you think. I still missed a few, so we just leave it the way it is for now. It's pretty nice. Let's tackle two things here. Actually, three. So we have this one. And oh, and you know what? This one we gotta do first. I didn't show this off in the video, in the past video, which is these are the locking mechanisms for the forearms. I had to sand these down individually and then prime them. we go. These are the navy. Oh, I gotta do this one. So this is the navy blue parts, which I gotta get the other color ready. And this is the leg part, which of course I didn't have to prime the whole thing, only the back and the sides. Let me just bend this a bit. And let's try this one, the backpack. There we go. Pretty nice. Alright, let me just continue on with the remaining gunmetal parts. Metallic gray parts. And we'll move on to the next series, next series of colors. Okay, so the next color is going to be Nato Brown, and this is going to be on all the dark blue parts. I was going to use a color called Earth, but I think Nato Brown seems to be a lot easier and a lot better than I think it should work. So let's apply it on this. Again, I think I mentioned this before, I decided not to appreciate it. I think, you know, let's do it like a standard, like off the assembly line, or even recently painted type mobile suit. Yeah, that's good. Whoops. Let's try the shield. And I didn't realize I didn't finish priming this shield, so I'm actually applying this on the non-primed shield. But yeah, let's see how well the brown will go over the blue. Maybe it'll be almost like a primer color. That's pretty good. Nice, not bad. Let's let that dry. Alright, let's try the good old torso. I've also taken to heart some comments that many people were telling me, saying that, listen, check your mixture. Make sure that you apply the right amount of thinner on your paint. That's why sometimes it'll look a little too much, or doesn't look like it's coming out right at all. Granted, I must have not been following my own techniques or comments of everybody else, because obviously if you put too much thinner, it's going to be too watery. If you put too little thinner, it's going to be a little too webby, or clogging up the airbrush. So you really need to be aware. I need to be aware of that. So that's something that I have to really take into heart for future builds, or current builds like this. I really like this brown. Pretty good. Alright. It's not bad. Let's do the foot. Bad. Oh yeah, we gotta do this. Since this one is already dried, I'm gonna remove it, so that way I don't accidentally paint it. Alright, let that dry a bit. Alright, so far this paint is coming out pretty well. I like it. Let me just continue on the remaining parts and then we'll move on to the next color.